We just finished today's episode of Beyond the Gates, and tensions were running high as Dani and Hayley faced off about Bill in the hospital. So the show starts off with what I really enjoyed, a sequence where we see the exterior shot of, the police station where Darlene is working dispatch. I guess it's not even the police station. I guess it's like central dispatch where the first response, like where the 911 operators work. And because I had to remember that, like on 911, the TV show 911, they don't actually work at the police or fire, like they have their own building. So that would make sense. Anyway, Caroline's on the phone with Darlene. Bill has passed out. He's not breathing. Darlene's like, check his chest to see if it's going up and down. It's not going up and down. You need to do CPR. Caroline says, I don't know how to do that. Darlene walks her through it. Great sequence. There was a sense of urgency, sense of jeopardy. The stakes were high. And it was also intercut with Hayley sitting in the limousine at the airport, drinking champagne, ready to put her plan to kill Bill in motion. So it was like and again, like we got Hayley in a limousine on a look, at a location, something dressed that made it look like she was at an airport hangar for a private jet. So just really good stuff. Like that was a good beginning to the episode. My issue was that it took over 20 minutes for us to get back to that. Like that was the top of the show, and we didn't get back to that for over 20 minutes. Meanwhile, while Caroline's working on Bill and 911, the first responders are trying to get to him, we go over to Eva's condo, and she and Isaiah are there, and she's trying to do some work, and Isaiah's trying to be affectionate, and she's being distant and pulling away from him. And excuse the noise in the background, the landscapers are here. So she starts talking about her scar again and how she feels like she's disfigured. And Isaiah's like, I don't see you like that. And he suggests that maybe she needs to see a therapist, which she completely objects to. He's trying to be, he said, I'm trying to be a supportive boyfriend, but he gets frustrated and he leaves. So, a little trouble in paradise, but short-lived. Over at the country club, Anita, Vernon, Chelsea, Naomi, and Kat are catching up over coffee. And but Chelsea and Naomi are there because they're meeting Dani for a spa day. So they go out to the lobby to meet with Dani. They see Dani, and Dani's like, oh, Andre's gone for the day, so we have the whole day to have fun. But there's a problem with the spa, so their appointments had to be pushed. So Dani asks if, so then they start talking. She starts telling me how she met Joey's sister, and then how she ran into Randy, and, he was denying an affair with Hayley, but he never said, I'm not having an affair with Hayley Hamilton. So they think, oh, maybe it is possible. But then Dani says, am I too involved? Too involved in this with Bill and too involved in your lives? And the girls are like, of course you're too involved in our lives, but we wouldn't have it any other way. We know you love us. Meanwhile, back in the dining room, Kat is left with Anita and Vernon, and she says, well, I have some work to do over at the studio because, remember, they have to get ready for the Tokyo show. I hope we get to see something with Tokyo. Anyway, Vernon and Anita are like, well, not so fast. We want to talk to you about your recent life choices. And so she thinks, oh, and we do find that Kat has moved out. So she's living in her condo now. And so she says, well, I don't want to run into you guys having sex anymore. And they were like, we will not apologize for our healthy sex life. I know that's right. And, so she thinks she's like, well, let's get the lecture over with. And they said, well, why would you think there's a lecture? And she says, well, you said you want to talk to me about my recent life choices. And they say, we want to let you know how incredibly proud we are of you. You've had a rough few months. Yeah, she did. She got bullied into donating a liver. So got yelled and screamed at and by people who were just nothing but belligerent with her. But they just wanted to let her know that they're proud of her, and it was a nice emotional moment. I feel like, we just had a conversation over the weekend about, do the writers hear us or listen to us? And I feel like they are trying to do some course correction when it comes to Kat. Not a lot, but some, because when they showed the previously on Beyond the Gates, they included the clip of Eva saying, I have a liver from the half-sister who's always resented me. Again, Eva always is doing a lot of work, because Kat, you've known Kat for a year and a half. And you act like there's nothing for her to be resentful towards, but that's a discussion for another day. Anyway, it's nice to see people, we saw Martin. They did it with Martin, where Martin and Kat had a nice breakfast together. Anita and Vernon are complimenting Kat. I think we had, and I could be imagining this, so you guys tell me, but I think we actually got a scene with Nicole being affectionate towards Kat as well. That could be a figment of my imagination, but let me know if it is or not. So over at the casino, Joey gets a call from the floor that the security cameras are out, so he leaves to go deal with that. Heather comes in, she goes and gets, and Vanessa is there. Vanessa's left in the card room. Heather pulls out a bottle of Joey's favorite tequila and basically gets Vanessa drunk to endear herself to Vanessa and to try to get information out of Vanessa, I guess. We learned through a flashback at the end of the episode, when Heather's alone on an elevator, that she was actually tossing her drink into a bucket. So she was pretending to be drunk. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Vanessa was getting weepy about Doug, and Joey's amused when he comes back that they're a little drunk. Heather leaves and he gets Vanessa, together. But he does warn Vanessa about Heather. Vanessa does say that there is a man, but it's a secret. So that's Andre, obviously. Bill is brought to the hospital. The nurses, Ashley and Shanice, are there. Caroline comes in after him. Caroline's going to call Hayley. Ashley's going to call Naomi, but before Ashley can get a hold of Naomi, Darlene goes over to the police station, and she runs into Jacob to tell Jacob about Bill. So Bill calls Naomi, who's still at the country club with Chelsea and Dani. So Naomi and Dani leave. Chelsea's trying to get a hold of Madison because Madison's on her way to Denmark. She was about to get on a flight to Denmark, but Chelsea's like, I might need you to come back. Then when Anita, Vernon, and Kat come out of the dining room, they see that Chelsea's visibly upset. So she tells them about Bill. Over at the hospital, Caroline tells Dani, Naomi, and Jacob how Bill collapsed, how they were supposed to be going to St. Bart's, which nobody knew about, so they're surprised at that. Then Hayley comes into off the elevator, acting like a fool, screaming for where's my husband? I want to see him right now. You tell me what's going on. Dani tells her to calm the hell down. And it's basically, we get a Dani versus Hayley. And what we learn is that Dani basically tells Hayley that she's a cheap imitation of her. She'll never replace her in Bill's heart, and she will always be there for her husband. And as she's saying that, Anita, Vernon, and Kat have gotten off the elevator. Dani and Chelsea, and Naomi and Jacob are all there too. So they all hear that, and they're all looking like, what the hell? And what we do learn is Bill is getting a pacemaker put in. So then Shanice is like, we need to defuse this. So she gets security to unlock Nicole's office door. Vernon and Anita take Dani in there, where she breaks down in tears over Bill. When Isaiah shows up at the police station to talk to Jacob about his problem with Eva, he runs into Darlene, and Darlene it says, I can talk to you. And she tells him about Bill. He sends a text saying, he's thinking about them. So then he talks about Eva and what happened with Eva and that he left in the middle of an argument. And Darlene's like, oh my God. So then she gives him a lesson from his childhood and, saying that it's not just the scar she's upset about. There's a root to it. You need to find out what the root to it is. So meanwhile, Eva's laying on her sofa having flashbacks about first meeting Isaiah, about their first date, their first kiss, that arts and craft bracelet that he gave her. And and I was like, I'm surprised they didn't throw in the macaroni and cheese sequence, but so he comes back home. He apologizes for leaving, and he says, I don't think the scar is the whole issue. Then she brings up how Ted dumped her mother when he found out she was pregnant, and how she's equating that, and she thinks that when things change, people change, and that Isaiah, now that her body is different, that she's got a scar, Isaiah will leave. And then he's like, I wouldn't do that. And she says, well, you had like a fight with your family and you moved out of town for years. And he's like, well, that's not the same. And it's like, yeah, it was kind of like like her rationale was a bit of a reach. And like, you guys know, like, cause I think had they written it as, you tend to leave. Like, forget the Dana and Ted stuff, because I think that was a kind of a false equivalence. But she could have just framed it with Isaiah. You tend to leave. You had a dust up with your family. You and your father don't get along, so you moved across the country. You broke up with your girlfriend and you left, or you were having issues with your girlfriend and, and you left. You broke up and you left, and your instinct is to leave. We got into an argument today and your instinct was to leave. What makes me think that won't be your instinct? To me, that would have been a better framing of it. Now, that aside, Eva bringing up Ted and Leslie is something that I've said should have been an issue from day one. The fact that not only did Ted run Dana out of town when he found out she was pregnant, this is the part they didn't include in today's episode, but was that, unless I didn't hear it, that Ted wanted Leslie to terminate the pregnancy. And that's where Eva's ire should be. Like, it shouldn't be about Kat not wanting a relationship with her. It shouldn't be about the Duprees not accepting her, which has always been weird to me. It should be about the fact that Ted didn't even want her. And yes, is he making up for it? Yes. Is there? But it's like they've never sufficiently played his guilt for it or her anger towards it, and her resentment toward it. Because if there should be resentment, that's where the resentment should lie. It shouldn't be about, oh, Kat's always been resentful of me. That's craziness. So that was the episode. It was a decent episode. Here's one thing I think they need to do. They need a doctor. They need one of those soap doctors who can do it all. Like, he's an ER doctor. He rushes into surgery. He does emergency surgery. He comes out and talks to the families. All that stuff. That's what Kyle should have been. Instead of having him specialize as an orthopedic surgeon, they should have had him be an all-around soap doctor, because we never see, for as many medical stories that this show is telling at one time, we never really see doctors working on patients. Now, we've seen Anita's oncologist, talking to her, and we've seen Dr. Monica talking to Anita, but we never see Nicole treating a patient. We never see, Ted talking to a patient about plastic surgery or in surgery, doing plastic surgery. And today, when Derek was shot, he just got wheeled off to the OR and died. Today, when Bill came in, he got wheeled off to the OR, and we'll see him tomorrow. I would like to see the doctors working on the patients. It raises the stakes. It raises the jeopardy. It gives a heart pounding, if the doctors are rushing to try to save a life, it makes the audience's heart pound and keeps us on the edge of our seats. And there's always the jeopardy that, the patient doesn't make it through. We don't know. So that's the one, like takeaway that I thought about for today's episode. But it was good. I wish they had focused a little bit more on the Bill, like, the Bill stuff and seeing Bill being worked on and that kind of stuff. But, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm curious. I can't wait to see what you guys thought about today's episode. Talk to you later.